Welcome to Talk to SATV, where we discuss most pressing global and national events. After we got independence in 1971, we have got a country that is full of damages. Our boys and girls were devastated by the events of 1971, but still they have come a long way. We have participated in different sports events, and as well as our coaches, they have given their effort so that our boys and girls could do in the national as well as international events. Today we have with us Mr. Patrick Hepp, who came to the country back in 70s as a coach and worked with numerous sports person, and he researched regarding the development of sports in Bangladesh and how it can develop our country, how sports could improve our country or condition of the country. So we welcome you, sir, in our talk show. So here we will discuss our future of the sports and our present of the sports as well, what happened in the 70s, how you guys put effort in the in the sports of our country, and how we could move forward. So my first question to you, could you take us back to the early days of sports in Bangladesh after independence, how it was?
Well, I arrived in 1976, and it was interesting as I went throughout the country how Bangladesh, you would see sports played everywhere with the children. Then in 1977, to get involved with the athletics program in the country and to see how the involvement, how people were interested in athletics, and you would see people in athletics running everywhere. You would see some of them volleyball nets, you would see football fields. There was so much space in the 70s. Dhaka was a much different country, or a different city. Lots of open areas for children to be able to play and get out and exercise. And it was fantastic to see the number of children that participated in sports. And in 1978, during your all's Proton Bangladesh Olympic, to see the number of spectators who came out to support sports in Bangladesh for such a new and a growing country.
What was the problem behind it right now? Because you said in 70s you have spectators. You have spectators of sports in the stadium, but now we see empty stadium. So what was the problem behind it?
That is a very big question. Some of it deals with families trying to make ends meet and having to have one or two jobs to support the family. They don't have the income to go. Some of it may be simply because we have too much social media, and why pay for a ticket to go watch a cricket match or a football match when you could sit at home and watch it on your mobile? You'd a lot less effort. There is something to be said about seeing sometimes your view is so much better to watch something on television than to go witness it in person. Some of it could be logistics and traveling to the venue if the games are played here in Bangladesh. To get to Mirpur, just the distance involved.
So there are multiple reasons, and you've said that Dhaka was a different city. You had a lot of playgrounds over here. What about the female participation in sports? Because you say that the athletics, I think females have also participated back in those days. Because our females, players have come a long way. Because we are doing good in our female football team is doing pretty good. So what about the participation of women or girls in sports in 70s when you came over here?
In the 1970s, girls participating in sports was not as great as what I've witnessed in the last few years when I've came back to visit Bangladesh. Mm-hmm. There was a good participation from females, but it was not to the extent that it is now. Of course, the population has grown, so the segment of the population of the females may be increasing that way. Plus the exposure of sport to the female population, that the females are starting to buy into what the exhilaration of getting out there and into participating, into competing, and realizing that they too can get the enjoyment of the sport.
So which sports were popular back then when you came in 70s?
When I arrived in 1976, 1977, the main sports would have been football. Every place you went, you would see children having a football, kicking it, passing it. Football was everywhere. Once again, they had the space. Now, I would hate to say how many deaths would be if every child had a football with them going out into the traffic. But football was number one. Number two would have been athletics, the running and the jumping. Number three would have been swimming.
Really?
Yes.
So even there was no cricket in top three? No. Oh.
Cricket would be down maybe number four. I did witness a cricket match between England and Bangladesh in 1977. But cricket would have been number four, down there with volleyball, badminton, and the other minor sports at that time.
So people played numerous sports back then?
Yes.
Did you enjoy the time over there? Because how people came out, like children came out, boys and girls came out of their home, they participated, there were a lot of playgrounds, so things were really good back then. So did you really enjoy working with your sports person back then when you come over here? And there's a lot of less technology back then. The techniques that you have to teach them, because now they have everything. Like they can learn something from YouTube or somewhere, they could pick some techniques from the internet, but back then it's because it's only them who will play the sports, who will learn their own techniques. So how was the scenario back then? How you guys start teaching them about the sports?
Children are creative and they are always questioning. And with a sport, if you give a child a ball, they will find a way to play with the ball. They will explore all these different avenues to try to find out the best way to kick the ball, the best way to pass the ball. I had never really played football before in the U.S. before I came to Bangladesh at the age of 22. And working out, I picked up football in Panchgachia down in Feni, because as I was going out there doing my work in agriculture, I saw them out there playing. So when I got off work, I went back to the village and they taught me how to play football. But
wow.
It was just an open space and the children just got together, and children can play without being organized. You do not need coaches, you do not need other people. Children will naturally gravitate to play, and play is the way they learn.
True.
And that's how I learned to play football and volleyball and the other sports that I picked up after athletics. The cities back then, as I mentioned earlier, that you just had the space. You could go play anywhere. But now with Dhaka exploding and growing so quickly, all those spaces that people used to play are being eaten up, and now because people need money, the open areas you do have, they're so costly for children to be able to participate in sports and to have a place to play.
Okay, we were discussing about the vacant areas that we did have in the Dhaka city. We will come back after a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Welcome to Talk to SATV. We were before the break, we were discussing about how important it was to have the vacant places and how children participated in the sports back in the 70s in Bangladesh. But we have come a long way. We participated in different national and international events. Our players were doing good as well. But as you were mentioning, and as I was mentioning as well, the kids are now learning from YouTube, like techniques, because nature and nurture is a two different thing. Definitely nature gives you the talent, but you have to nurture the talent as well. You need a coach. So the children of today, they're not getting any coach to pick their talents, because you need someone to pick the talents, because for that children need to get out. So coaching is very important. Not only technology could help you, but the real coaching is important. So what do you think about it?
As you just said, YouTube you can learn everything from YouTube, but YouTube cannot sit there, it cannot break down your skill as you're kicking the ball to tell you where your weight transfer should be from your kicking foot to your support foot. They can't tell you your angle of how your foot should contact or meet the ball.
Even the speed.
Even especially with the speed, and having a coach who has been trained to give you this feedback, because what you perceive your body doing isn't always what your body is doing. That's what you see in your mind. But to have a coach to say, no, you think you're doing it right, but your balance is off. You need to transfer your weight. In the 70s, as I would go, I would not only tell the athletes, but I would take a photo and to show them as they're performing the skill, so that they're able
to understand.
I could then explain to them,
exactly.
This is what you did. Oh no, this is what, no, you did this, which meant the ball went off at an angle, that your trajectory with the ball is Saidu or Rob with the shot put, that you want to go at a 33-degree angle. He was going at about a 30. So just the little nuances that can improve a child's performance, which is continued repetition at that skill, it will be enhanced, and it will just improve drastically as the years go by and your competitiveness increases with a sport.
True. How did Bangladesh's political and economic condition basically impacts the sports? Because you mentioned about the kids coming out of the home. We had child labor as well, because of the poor economic conditions. Parents are not, interested to send them to sports ground because they have, they're inserted into the labor industry. So what do you feel the economic conditions and political conditions do impact in development of sports?
Economics does a lot, because even with myself, I grew up working, not playing sports, because my father, when you have your own children, that's pretty much free labor. And so the children don't have those opportunities because they have to help support the family. But beyond that, okay, you mentioned economics. What was the other?
Political,
the political
interference I was talking about.
Politics back in the 70s, Russia, I followed some Russian coaches who were here before me, who were sent over here. The Russians who were here and working with the athletes were here from their government. They were paid by their government to come and create goodwill and relationships through sports. And sports is a great political tool. I came through another organization, a mission organization. We did agricultural work and other types of ministries here in Bangladesh. So I did not just come. My Bengalis, when the Russians left, I wanted to meet the Russian coaches because they were just fantastic in their sport. But the Bengalis said, "Oh, they're not." They said the difference is not being involved in politics. I spent time with them. I would not come, train, and leave, but to come and eat with them, to have tea, to sit and just talk with them as real people, and to make time. Bangladesh loves the rhythm of life. It is so much slower and so much freer here that they did not appreciate a coach who would just come for 30 minutes and leave. But to come and stay, that is what makes a difference in an athlete and a coach. The time they spend together, to grow together, and to trust each other. The coach to trust the athlete to do their best, and that athlete to listen and learn what their coach is trying to teach them.
Okay, as you have researched about the development of sports in Bangladesh, so what about the school sports? So did you see school sports back then? Did the kids went to school and the school organized the different events for sports events as well? Did you notice that back then? But would you find any difference that, in organizing sports? Because back then the schools were organizing as well. So do you find any difference what happened back then and what happens now?
Back then, the schools would organize the sport. The children would play during their playgrounds and would go into school, and they could have a good organized situation in the school that the kids could participate because they had the skills, because they had the space to practice. Nowadays, they don't have as much space and the time limited in a school to get to practice the sport. To me, is not enough for that child to really develop it, to develop their sports to the level of participation. Back in '78, Boston Shilpo, the Bangladesh jute mills, the Bangladesh textile mills, both had large
playgrounds.
Athletics, had large numbers of students that participated in the Proton Bangladesh Olympics because they had the athletes they could pull from everywhere. Now, when I was here in 2018 and attended, the teams are so much smaller because the space, they do not have the athletes to draw from because the students are not getting the practice time to develop to that level of competition.
Okay. Patrick, according to you, what are the key milestones in Bangladesh sports? After 71, what do you think? What are the key milestones in sports in Bangladesh?
I was impressed. Your first international competition after 1971 was in 1975 in Russia with the Pravda Games. Wow. That was Bangladesh's first entry into international sports. I do think that is a good place that politics plays, is it gives your country a chance to perform and compete against other countries and to learn the cultures that they can
because they're the ambassadors of the countries.
To be the ambassadors, that you can understand other countries' thought processes, which can cut down on the problems countries have with each other now. Athletics is a wonderful place for that to expand. And in my graduate thesis, that's what I wrote about, was Bangladesh being able to participate on the international scale and grow itself from the outside and develop grassroots programs in sports for children.
Okay, despite the progress, Bangladesh still faces challenges in sports development or progress of sports. So what are the biggest obstacles, according to you, so that Bangladesh is not, that is inhibiting Bangladesh to get the success in global arena?
Well, the first one would be the same with almost everything. It's, do you have the funding? If you have the funding behind to support the children, that they can learn the basics at a young age, and then as they get older, to support. When I came here 2 years ago, I had a problem with my leg, and a friend of mine took me to the cricket stadium, and I met the cricket coach or the cricket doctor who specialized and helped me take care of my foot problem. That you all have, but there are so few opportunities when you're developing a sport. You have to have the money to have that infrastructure, to have the doctors to take care of them, to have the facilities for children to be able to move and progress from the elementary level to the professional level of competition.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take a short break. After the break, we will come back. Welcome to Talk to SATV. We were discussing with Mr. Patrick Hepp regarding the sports of Bangladesh, regarding the future of sports of Bangladesh. Patrick, we were talking about the grassroots training and coaching of school, as well as the involvement of the schools in or participation of kids in different sports even. So what do you think, where do we lack? What do we have to do to involve more children into sports, or to break them out of their smartphones and come to the ground?
To break them away from the smartphones is to get kids to just to get outside and breathe, enjoy playing. That's number one. Get kids to find something they enjoy, not to get them out and just run, but to enjoy playing. I saw so many children running and just pushing a little wheel when I was here in the 70s. No money, but the children were active.
It's true, because it's not to accuse the children. It's not only their fault, because they want to come out. But parents do think about their security, because they want them safe to be in their home. Because when they come out, they feel fear of losing them. So it's not only to them to blame. Yeah. It's not only the child to blame, because it's the parents as well, I guess, as you were saying. So yeah. What about the programs, like school programs, how we could improve our grassroots?
The grassroots, Bangladesh has such a great population that you should have a percentage of athletes to that great population. So you should have some world-class athletes if they're given the opportunity to start at a much younger age. Mm-hmm. Sports, athletics, if you have the ability to start those kids when they're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, to let them evolve and explore. Are they better runners? Are they better at kicking a ball? How are their reflexes? And nurture what nature has given them to grow. And a lot of that comes, I am so happy to see BKSP to have visited your Olympic Training Center in Savar. You have some wonderful coaches this past year. And I live in Haiphong, Vietnam, and Bangladesh participated in an under-20 tournament which took place in my city, and I got to go meet Marufal, the head coach, to meet the players. There's a lot of potential, but it's providing those opportunities out in Rajshahi, Dinajpur, and Boris Shah, all over the country, to teach the teachers the skills that they need to teach the students, so that they can start at the grassroots developing the athletes to be able to compete at a national and an international level. So the facilities that you're growing at BKSB and the Olympic Training Center are toward the top. But they can't do anything unless we get it down to the local regions, like I did in Panchgachia, going out and learning to play football. If you can do it in the local villages and train the children there, it's so much easier when as they move up in competition, to develop a higher level of athlete that can compete with other countries at the international level.
But how do we do that? Do we set up camps? What are the ways, what are the means that we should follow according to you? Because you have been in this arena for long and you know how to do it.
The first is funding. It takes funding. You have to have sponsors, corporations who can see the benefits. But unfortunately, economics deals with what's going to be the bottom line. Is it going to make money for me? And there has to be a trade-off where they can put money into it, develop the kids, and the kids, the owners give them buy the product, which is sponsor who's helping their children support that sponsor. So it's a circle. The sponsors support the athletes and the parents and the population then support those vendors and the people who are sponsoring the athletes. And it can go back to the individual level, not on just a team level, but the individual athletes, to help them to be able to participate.
Okay. So how important is the government support in flourishment of sports? Apart from the sponsors.
The government support is essential, because politics will drive the international sports and the avenues that open, that you can participate in these countries' events, that you get invitations to go to England for the
Commonwealth game, maybe?
Thank you. The
yeah.
Commonwealth Games. I couldn't think of that. To let your athletes see where they stand in the level of competition. A girl I met and worked with at BKSB 2 years ago, I hear is still the #1 high jumper in
Country?
In Bangladesh.
Okay.
And to give them that support that they can continue to strive. She competed at the Commonwealth Games, so she sees where the competition is, and to come back and have the coaching to raise her skills, to take her to be the best high jumper she can. Okay. And not only her, but any other athlete who has the opportunity to travel internationally to perform, so that they can say, oh, wow, I'm going to really have to improve. And as they're there to watch the skills of the other athletes, and they can be their own coach in some respects and see what is successful, and they can improve themselves. International competition helps there. And that goes back to your government being able to provide those opportunities. I know I went to the Asian Games in Hanoi a couple years ago, and the athletics. Bangladesh was not represented in the Asian Games. They went to some other games, but I went specifically to see if Bangladesh was there, and they weren't. And I know that the governments can only provide so much, but it's everyone has to believe and join into that.
In your coaching career, what problems do you face coaching in Bangladesh, basically in athletics? Like maybe weather? The weather is too harsh, I guess?
The weather, well, the competitions, we had the Proton Olympics was in March, or usually in February and March, in the winter, because yes, the environment makes a big difference. During the monsoon, it's hard to do anything other than swimming. But to have the opportunities throughout the year, in the States, they have the indoor facilities, and Bangladesh may not be the funding for an indoor facility, but there again, in the 70s, Dhaka Stadium was a dirt track. The athletes I coached ran on dirt. They high jumped. Y'all were getting mats, but I'm thinking Mymensingh, there was a mat there in 1970. Okay. But a lot of the high jumping is done where you just jump 5, 6, or 1 or 2 meters, and you land in sand, and that's hard on the body. But to improve and to be able to have the mats for them, to have the tartan tracks so that you can run in between the monsoons, that you can go out and run. The heat is definitely a contributor that it's going to limit. In Qatar, we had the same thing. You know, there are times of the year you just don't go outside. You can't, because it's not healthy. It's just too hot.
So what do you think? The sports coaching has evolved during these years in Bangladesh? Did we improve in the coaching? Do we have enough trainers as well?
You may not have enough, but those that I have met, like Marufal, I know Rumi, who I work with, Nazrul Islam, their level of expertise, their knowledge of the game, and what separates them now is not only their knowledge, but their love and their commitment, to have the coach's commitment to what they're doing. You know, it's not, Marufal wasn't there for the money. It was the opportunity to change people's lives. And to meet those students meant so much to my friend and I when we got to watch and participate and go places with them as a team. That to see the love of the sport and of the athletes, of the young people that you all are trying to train, and to know that BKSP and them and other organizations are providing the opportunity for the training. Now, it's up to the local teachers and the districts to get that training, to want to get that training, to be able to make the students better.
So, do you think we're going in the right direction? In the next 10 to 20 years, where do you see us in Olympics, Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, or even in the regional games like SARC? So, where do you see us?
Well, my hope and my dream would to be able to see you all continue working toward that Olympics. Now, you said 10, 20 years. It's possible. It is possible with the commitment. But many people, I coached a Saudi in 1980 who wanted to be in the Olympics, and he said, what's it going to take? And I started to tell him the workouts he would have to do, and he just shook his head and he walked off because he's not committed to sacrificing to reach that level of competition. He had the ability, but he did not want to be on a strict diet. He did not want to put in the work that is required to be a world athlete.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. You have to have the skills and you have to have the commitment. You may have the skills, but if you don't have the commitment.
So we do lack in commitments from the sportsman or the authority? What do you think? Both to blame?
Both, but it goes back to that individual. How big is their heart?
True.
Now, I know Bangladesh's culture, you all have
big hearts.
The biggest hearts I've ever seen anywhere in the world. But it's, do you have the dedication to put that level of commitment, of sacrifice away from your family, away from your friends, of giving up 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years of your life toward a goal? Because it's an end result that you're going to get. Those 5 or 6 years that you're going to be sacrificing. And sometimes it's leaving your family and going to BKSB and working with those coaches. And yes, sometimes it's financial because those coaches also have to eat. And so they also need to get paid.
True.
So there are limits there. A good friend or someone I know here with basketball has all the abilities to be on the national team, but why isn't he on it? He doesn't have the money to pay for the coach, so therefore he can't be considered as part of the team.
Thank you.
So a lot of your great athletes.
Patrick, thank you very much for coming to our show, and it's wonderful, learning insights of you. It's wonderful talking to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I've enjoyed it.
I talked with Patrick while he was here in 70s. He find the enthusiasm and the big heart that Bengalis had for their sports in that war-torn country. Now he is here, and throughout our discussion it came out he's amazed how BKSP is doing, how children's are learning to play sports, but definitely he pointed out the difficulties in our coaching system. We need enough coach, as well as he doesn't see enough playground in Dhaka or in bigger cities of Bangladesh. He pointed out that authority as well as sponsorship as well as the sportsman, so it's a collective effort that we need to put to develop our sports. He has researched about the development of sports in Bangladesh, and he shared his experience, and from his experience we need to work out that how we should develop our sports so that one day our boys and girls could go to Olympic, Asian Games or any other world events and get medals for us. Thank you so much, Patrick, again.
Thank you.
And thank you so much viewers for watching us. We will see you on the next week. Till then, goodbye. Allah Hafiz.